لا إله إلا الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه يكافي مزيدا، وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. اللهم علمنا بما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما إنك أنت عليم حكيم. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري، ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري، ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري. يا تواب يا تواب يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين، فاغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين يا رب العالمين. أما بعد, inshallah ta'ala, today we're going to have a discussion, inshallah ta'ala. We're going to continue the discussion on truthfulness, inshallah ta'ala, but in a different area. And it's going to conclude our past couple of days that we've been discussing the topic of being truthful. And the previous 2 days, the first day we talked about truthfulness in our speech, and then the following day, yesterday, we spoke about truthfulness in action. And we mentioned that truthfulness in speech, by its very basic, inshallah ta'ala, definition, is whatever is true is uttered from your mouth, and whatever is not true is not uttered from your mouth. At the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. And we discussed some of the spiritual implications of this, some of the benefits of the people who are consistently truthful, etc., such as that, and some of the, obviously, the drawbacks behind lying, backbiting, especially in this month of Ramadan, and nullifies the spiritual provision that you can take from your fast, the reward that you can get from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from your fast. Right? And then truthfulness in action. Truthfulness in action, we just talked about yesterday. And truthfulness in action is what emanates from truthfulness in speech. It's what follows an individual who is truthful in speech, somebody who is truthful in speech. When they start to inculcate this, and they start to just make this as a regular habit of themselves, it's an indication that there's a sense of truthfulness, a sense of honesty on the inside. And so eventually it not only becomes just consistently uttered through the speech, but the sense of seeking truth will also emanate from their actions, from their bodily limbs. As the bodily limbs, in accordance with the hadith, follows whatever the tongue says, in accordance with the hadith. And so the bodily limbs will then start doing that which is truthful. And by truthful, what the author intends by that is performing acts of ibadah and interactions with others, dealings with others, such as buying and selling or what have you, that is done with a level of ihsan, with excellence, spiritual excellence. Spiritual excellence as well as within our Sharia and legal code, that it's excellent as well in terms of having a completeness to your act of worship, incorporating as many recommended actions to your act of worship as you could, incorporating as many sunan into your act of worship as you could, incorporating as many nawafil and permissible type actions as you can with the correct intention that could raise it in degrees and get you reward with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, maximizing our reward through the performance of specific actions and specific acts of worship, and dealing with others and interacting with other people, and etc., such as that. Those are the things that incorporate the truthfulness in our actions. And so now that brings us today to lesson 11 on this 11th day of Ramadan. We're in the second third now, alhamdulillah. And now we're going to be concluding this discussion on what then follows after truthfulness of actions. Once an individual starts to become a habitual speaker of truth, then the bodily limbs follow afterwards, and they start to become truthful in their actions. And then once an individual starts to incorporate the truthfulness in actions in the body, then we get a little bit deeper. We go even deeper. And we start to talk about truthfulness of a person's intentions. Okay? And that's what this chapter here is, truthfulness of intention. And now, just as a little preview, somebody could literally say the truth, but their body doesn't really necessarily follow. And so I can say, Islam is the one true religion in terms of its encompassing nature of Islam, right? It's the one true religion. That's true. But maybe my body doesn't really follow up in terms of the acts of worship. Maybe I don't pray. Maybe I don't fast. I don't give enough in charity, what have you. My actions, my body doesn't follow up with that. Or perhaps we have a person that says, I'm a Muslim. Prayer is 5 times a day. prayers 5 times a day. That's the truth. And they do pray 5 times a day. But perhaps they pray just to be seen by others. فَوَيْلٌ لِلْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ إِذَا صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ وَإِذَا هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ وَإِذَا صَلُّوا يُرَاءُونَ. Why am I forgetting this? Mashallah. الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ. There, now to recite it like I'm actually reciting it, that'll help me to remember. الَّذِينَ هُمْ يُرَاءُونَ. So those who wish to be seen within the prayer. Right? So maybe they're praying 5 times a day, but they don't actually have an intention of wanting to pray for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They just pray just to be seen by others. So the person, when they say prayers 5 times a day, they're literally speaking the truth. And they might actually physically perform all the sunnah and recommended actions or what have you, and pray 5 times a day, maybe even in congregation. But there's something deeper inside. Their intentions, the state of their heart, the direction of their heart, the qibla of their heart. The qibla of the prayer is towards the Kaaba, but the qibla of the heart is towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The qibla of the heart is towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so where is the qibla of the heart? Where is the intention? Where is that orientation? Where is it going? And that's truthfulness of intention. And once an individual has all three, truthfulness of speech, truthfulness of action, and truthfulness of intention, then a person starts to fulfill the hadith about those individuals who consistently act upon the truth, speak the truth, and act upon the truth, until it becomes written for them that they're amongst the people of truth. Right? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So Bismillah, inshallah ta'ala, we'll begin through the text, inshallah. As the author begins to mention, it was mentioned previously that truthfulness of speech is the foundation upon which truthfulness is built, and from here it is extended to truthfulness in action and intentions. Truthfulness of action is displayed when a believer performs an action properly, according to the pure sacred law, expending all his efforts to perform it with excellence. We also mentioned that when an action is performed solely for the sake of Allah, then this is the result of the truthfulness of intention. So truthfulness in speech, followed by truthfulness in action, leads to the attainment of truthfulness of intention. Having a sense of truthfulness of intention, that is the achievement. Because that's ultimately what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is judging. Yes, we're being judged by our speech and by our actions, obviously. But it's that position of the heart within the context of all that that is the ultimate fulcrum upon which an individual is judged one way or the other. That intention, that position, that state of the heart, that is the fulcrum. Is it going this way? Or is it going that way? Are we upon righteousness at this moment? Or actually are we earning transgression under the guise and under the form of righteousness? The form meaning we're actually performing physical acts of worship, but it's just a form. There's no substance to it. There's no intention behind it. And so having a sense of truthfulness of intention in all of our dealings, in all of our interactions, and all of our acts of worship, that is the goal. Having true sincerity, truthfulness in our intention towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا غَيْرُ, and no one other than Him. Bismillah. And so only those who Allah chooses possess this, and He praises them in His book and raises their rank. Their status is such that He orders the believers to be with the truthful ones. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu ittaqullaha wa kunu ma'a sadiqin. O you who believe, fear Allah and be with the truthful ones. It's not just those that speak the truth. Wa kunu ma'a sadiqin. Those who inculcate the character virtue of truth in its holistic nature, in its entirety. They are truthful individuals. And a truthful individual is one that incorporates truthfulness of their speech with their truthfulness of action, and which all is wrapped around their truthfulness of their intentions. That is an individual who is the truthful one. And when we put ourselves in the company of those who embody this characteristic, المرء على دين خليله فينظر أحدكم إلى من يخال. An individual is upon the religion of their friend, or upon the way of life of their friend. So look very closely, each and every single one of you, at whom he befriends, whom he or she befriends. And so, any individual, when they take some kind of portion, some kind of, what you could say, characteristics from their friends. Birds of a feather flock together is essentially what the Prophet Muhammad said in that hadith. Birds of a feather flock together, as we know. And so if we put ourselves in the company of the birds who are grand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those birds who are true and beautiful and are loving of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we put ourselves consistently in their company, whether from amongst scholars, whether from amongst students of knowledge, whether from amongst our teachers, whether from amongst other professionals, whether from amongst our parents, whether from amongst close related friends, whether from amongst relatives, no matter who, wherever we can find individual who is truthful, there is no knowledge prerequisite for this. It is simply an individual who, when they speak the truth. And whenever they perform acts of worship or they deal with others, they try to do so incorporating everything that they know to make it beautiful for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when they do perform anything, or when they do anything, they clean out their heart to make sure that it's solely for the sake of God. Those are the truthful ones. And those are the people we need to be around. Those are the people we need to be around so we can take some of our feathers and start to look like those birds. And perhaps when we actually take from those feathers, those are the ones that will give us flight and allow us to take off truly in our religion. Inshallah. Truthfulness of intention means that a person's intention is made sincerely for Allah's sake. If a person has a sincere intention, this will be reflected in the truthfulness of their words and actions. Right? It's clear. If a person has a sincere intention, so if the nucleus by which a person operates, right? By the nucleus being within a cell, right? The where the kind of the power station of a cell that gets that cell running, right? And so within the nucleus of an individual is their sincere intention. And then everything that revolves around it is within its orbit, the electrons, the protons, whatever. Everything that is around the nucleus, spinning, the truthfulness of their words and their actions, it'll be reflected and it'll go. And the individual will have their pure intention, and that'll allow for their words and their actions to be pure. And their words and their actions to be truly getting the reward that they deserve to be getting from Allah, not deserve, astaghfirullah, that they put themselves in position to earn from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So the intention's the nucleus, and everything revolves around it, and it will revolve in a beautiful way, so long as that intention is pure, that intention is solid and isn't imbalanced, throwing the cell or throwing our worship in balance, or throwing our words off balance, even if they have the appearance that they are true. If, however, their intention is insincere, the truthfulness of their words and actions will be of no benefit. Someone may, for example, praise a believer who is worthy of praise, but in reality he may conceal hatred in his heart for him, and the only thing that drove him to praise him was some type of self-interest. This person's speech was true, but his intention was corrupt and insincere. Right? Just like the couple of examples that we've been giving in terms of how this can kind of disconnect. And so you need all three in order to be completely truthful. Speech, action, intention. Likewise, people may outwardly show respect to those around them while inwardly despising them. Believers are required to ensure that they are truthful in every state until Allah raises them to the ranks of the people of immense truthfulness. Right? This is the hadith that we were alluding to. Right? The Prophet ﷺ said, Allahumma salli wa sallim alayhi, a man will continue to be truthful and strive to be so until he is recorded by Allah as being someone of immense truthfulness. And so it's not just that we say the right thing one time. It's not that we make a really, really good wudu that was really had a lot of presence in it and a lot of mindfulness in it one time, no. ala dawam, consistently, over and over, each and every single day, each and every single hour, every time we move to prayer, or every time we shop online, anytime that we buy something, anytime that we speak to our neighbor, any single time that we serve our parents, any single time that we do anything, consistently, that we speak the truth when we open our mouths to speak in whatever it is that we're speaking about. We're not just blabbering at the mouth in regards to our own opinions on Facebook or in our character limit on Twitter, right? Or in the TikTok videos that we make to get likes and likes and comments, what have you, right? Viewers, followers. We're not just doing these, we're not just mentioning opinions and expressing ourselves just for the sake of it. And it could be something that's true or false, who knows, it's my opinion, it's me. No, that's not speaking, that's not being truthful. Truthful is factual. It emanates from within, from a true, sincere place of the believer. You're giving true advice to somebody. This has its foundation within Islam, within the Quran and Sunnah. Right? Those are the things that are truthful. Speaking facts, speaking from the Quran and Sunnah, speaking from a true position of the heart, not out of one's own ego, not out of one's flimsy emotional states. Being truthful and speaking when it's necessary, not when it's not welcome, which most of what we say is not welcome. Even if others are welcoming it, it's still not welcome. And so when we strive to do that, and then we also strive consistently in our acts of worship and in our dealings with others to make them complete and pure and good and wholesome and complete for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? With all the recommendations and all of the sunnahs and all of the obligations that are required in any particular act of worship, that we know, that we learn, and we strive to its utmost consistently. Okay, there's truthfulness in action. And then we also make sure that we're always doing these things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or that we always have some kind of noble intention associated with. There's numerous intentions that we can make with actions that are good, right? Giving charity to help somebody is good. Having intention to help your neighbor is good. You do it for the sake of Allah, but you can, I want to help my neighbor, yes. Right? So having pure intention, inshallah, also within that. And so when all of those things become consistent, all of those things become a daily practice, an hourly practice, a minute-by-minute practice, because we're always doing something minute by minute, right? That all those things become becomes habitual for us. Once it becomes habitual, then khalas, it becomes an inherent characteristic. Something, psychologically speaking, something that is done for, what is it? Over 20 days? Over 20 days consistently, and it becomes an ingrained habit, an ingrained characteristic of that individual. Similarly, and that's what this month of Ramadan is for, to get into these characteristics so that way we can fundamentally change and fundamentally blossom and beautify ourselves and transform ourselves or evolve into individuals who are more pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and pleasing to the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? And so we incorporate all those things consistently. Intention, action, and speech. Inshallah ta'ala, ameen. Inshallah ta'ala, will be amongst those that are written as the truthful ones. Once it becomes consistent and habituated, then we can be written amongst the truthful ones, inshallah ta'ala. We pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to receive that ni'mah, receive that blessing from Him, and that we never lose it and it never gets taken away from us. Ameen. This is why one of the knowers of Allah wished to make his children happy by bringing them toys or gifts. And so a knower of Allah, somebody who's intimately acquainted with the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the earth, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions numerous times in the Quran, do they not reflect upon the signs within the heavens and the earth, and the signs in the creation that's around them. Right? And so somebody who's a knower of Allah is intimately aware and can distinguish the messages behind what life gives us, and so that brings them closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to teach us with what's going on around us. And so he would not say, this knower, this one who was intimately aware, when he wished to make his children happy by bringing them toys or gifts, he would not say, I will bring you that. But rather, he would say, how would you feel if I brought you? How would you feel if I brought you that? He would not do this out of fear of saying that he would bring something and then not bringing it. Or he would do this out of fear of saying that he would bring something but then end up not bringing it, right? And it would be incidental. It's not purposeful that he would do it. At the end, by accident, he would just maybe not bring the thing. And so that he would not be truthful in his intention, speech, or action. And so he would fear that he would not be considered truthful in speech, action, or in intention if he even accidentally didn't bring back the toy or the gift or whatever it is like that. And for this reason, he was cautious, fearing Allah Most High, and being scrupulous about what he would say to his young children and the members of his household, not to mention others. This is the manifestation of truthfulness, that such an individual is just so wary of how the truth is being expressed, and making sure that what is being expressed is just true in the first place, that it can be followed up with, that it can actually happen if it's an action. And individual truthfulness and the manifestation of truthfulness, that an individual is just so wary to ensure that it corresponds with reality. That if they're going to get something, that they're actually going to be getting that thing, but not even putting themselves in a position to, by mistake, not being able to do something, and then it's something that falls that's not true. How many of our little kids said that, you promised me that you said that bedtime would be at 8 o'clock, or you promised you would get me this, and you had every intention to mention that bedtime was at such and such time, or that you would bring them back some candy from the store, but maybe you forgot. Or you're just extra tired, you decided you want to send them to bed earlier. And say, but you told me you were going to do. Because they think, like, in their little minds, like, you're lying. And so even from that, but you're not, it's just a mistake. It's not a lie. But there could be that appearance. And so not even just the appearance that something is a lie. Right? That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't even, or not that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but that an individual who is just so wary and cautious of them being truthful and being counted amongst truthful ones, and being that loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they'll even go to that extent that even the appearance of something being not true, they'll want to make sure that that's taken care of. If believers are truthful in their intention, this truthfulness will permeate their speech and actions, thus rectifying and perfecting them. Likewise, truthfulness of speech naturally leads to truthfulness of action, and truthfulness of action leads to truthfulness of intention. So one follows the other. It's important that we say true words first. And that'll enable us to incorporate more elements into our acts of worship. And once we continue to be consistent upon those things, that'll clean out our hearts, inshallah ta'ala, so that way when we are doing those things, that then truly we start to see how we're doing things for the sole sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should be doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, first and foremost, period, anyways, truthful speech and actions, what have you. It's not to say that they're not for the sake of Allah, but there's still a refinement process, still a cleaning process that goes on until that true light of Iman, that just the rust just keeps getting off of the heart, off of the soul, until it can truly shine and really shine for Allah. Maybe little pieces shine out here and there, but there's still rust right now. But over time, with the consistency, the consistent chipping away, it beautifies, it intensifies, it grows, right? Inshallah ta'ala. That's the idea. That's the idea. So the Prophet ﷺ was asked about a man who fought in order to be called courageous, about a man who fought out of tribal loyalty, and about a man who fought to manifest his rank. Which one of these, they asked, was fighting for the sake of Allah? The Prophet informed them there was only one who had sincere intention. Whoever fights in order for the word of Allah to be transcended, his struggle is for the sake of Allah. Okay? We're going to say political commentary on this. But it goes to the fact that he was asked, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he was asked about which one of these individuals would actually be courageous, or that they would actually be called courageous. Is it somebody who fights out of tribal loyalty? Or we could extend that to being a sense of national pride. fight for my country, free my country, specifically for that intention. Okay. Or about a man who fought to manifest his rank. He wants to manifest him being a lieutenant or a general. So he's putting that out there, and he wants to say, no, I'm so-and-so, and I'm going to lead this expedition in this charge, and they want to have that as a confirmation of them being in that type of rank. Or a rank, you could say, even a spiritual rank, that, oh no, I'm a mujahid, I'm a fighter for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah, this is me. Okay. And that individual speaks, and it's kind of like that. And so which one of these is the courageous one? Or which one of these, was the one that is considered fighting for the sake of Allah? Or is it the individual who is fighting to be called courageous? Is it the individual fighting to be called courageous? And courage is a virtue in society. And perhaps they just want to display that virtue and then encourage others thereby, right? So which one of these is for the sake of Allah? And the Prophet ﷺ negated all of them. The one fighting for national pride, the one fighting for courage, and the one fighting for, what's the other one? Manifesting his rank, or being known as something, right? All of them were rejected by the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he only mentioned that the one who was fighting in order to establish the word of Allah azza wa jal. La ilaha illallah. Whoever is fighting for it, la ilaha illallah, then he is the one that is struggling for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so it goes to go, sincerity of intention, even when you're attaching sometimes things that in society might seem virtuous, but maybe could go kind of here one way or the other in Islam, depending on, but it depends on one's prior intention. Is it for the sake of Allah or not? Do you want to be called courage for the sake of Allah or not? Which really, if you want to be called something, there really isn't going to be. It's really not going to be in there. You know, being purely for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's an element of nafsi in there. There's an element of wanting for the self in there. Right? And so the one who fights in order for the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be established and to be transcended, that is the one who is doing something for the sake of Allah azza wa jal. You do it as a manifestation of La ilaha illallah, and to manifest La ilaha illallah within reality. Manifesting it within reality. That is the one who is truthful intention. And therefore, every believer should seek to make truthfulness a reality in their speech, actions, and states. Someone who allows life to pass them by, not caring whether lies creep into their speech, and then dishonesty into their actions, is someone heedless of their Lord, someone who does not care about the rectification of their heart, and someone who is not preparing for their afterlife. A believer should rise above this wretched state. A believer should have himmah, high aspiration. A believer should just not be content with being, mashallah, this is how God, intended for me to be, don't judge me, bro, whatever. We need to be better. We need to grow. The plant does not just lift an inch off the ground and say, you know what, I'm actually good, I'm out the ground or whatever, No, the plant goes to its maximum capacity of how it's able to grow. It keeps going until it reaches that maximum capacity that is contained within it. As it contain its inherent ability. Just like that, we all have inherent ability, whether we realize it or not. Our job is to keep growing so that way we can manifest it. How close can I get to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Not just, I'm content with, I don't pray consistently, but Allah, forgive me. No, we have to keep going. We have to keep going. We have to keep going. Truthfulness of action and speech are manifest in the Quran when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes those who emigrated with our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as being the poor immigrants who have been driven out from their homes and have lost their belongings. Their immigration and their sacrifices reflect truthfulness of action. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they are those who seek bounty from Allah and His good pleasure and aid Allah and His Messenger. And this refers to the truthfulness of intention. Allah Most High then testifies to their truthfulness. So here's the nugget. May you be pleased with them. Radiallahu anhum. He subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that they are truthful. And this is all in Surah Al-Hashr. that these are the ones who are truthful in the example of those who emigrated from Mecca to Medina. Those who emigrated from Mecca to Medina, leaving everything behind. For the sake of what? For the sake of Allah and His Messenger. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. For the sake of Allah and His Messenger. They left everything, families, money, wealth, homes, way of life, tribe, everything behind. For Allah and His Messenger. They didn't know what awaited them in that journey. They knew where they were heading towards, but what awaited them, especially at that time. Travel is not what it was. Travel is not like now, how it was back then. So these are the signs of those that are truthful, those that do it for Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so it speaks to us where, okay, what am I doing for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and for the Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam? How am I living my life, that is, in emulation of the Muhajirin? That is an emulation of those who emigrated for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal and left everything. What am I willing to leave behind? My PlayStation, my Xbox, my Snapchat, texting so-and-so. What am I willing to leave behind? For the sake of Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that it can be considered amongst what? They are the truthful. Amongst the truthful ones. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He helps us to leave for His sake, and the sake of His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, meaning in accordance with His sunnah, that He allows us to be able to leave the things that take us away from making noble intentions for them. That He enables us with that tawfiq and that grace to be able to leave those things behind and never go back to it, to immigrate away from the distraction of our lower selves, to immigrate away from our personal vices that we just are kind of stuck in the mire in. As previously mentioned, we have been commanded to be with the truthful people. This represents a command to the Muslim community to respect the noble companions, the emigrants and the helpers who honored their pledge with Allah. As Allah has stated in His book, He commanded us to be with the truthful, as clarified in the verse. Allah has turned with favor to the Prophet and the emigrants and the helpers who followed him in the hour of hardship. Allah also says, as for the foremost, the first of the emigrants and the helpers, and those who follow them with excellence, Allah is pleased with them, and they too are pleased with Him. Here, Allah clarifies the necessity of following the emigrants and the helpers, along with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's the result. The assistance and the aid of Allah Azza wa Jal in whatever it is that we need assistance and aid with. And so long as we strive and strive and strive, strive and strive and strive for what? The pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The pleasure of Allah represented within our truthful speech, our truthful actions, and our truthful intentions. Once we do these things consistently, every single day, moment, an hour, minute, everything, that we become amongst just like the Muhajirin and just like the Ansar, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He is pleased with them and they are pleased with Him. Radiyallahu anhum wa radu an. Allah is pleased with them and they are pleased with Him. And what other state should we aspire to be in except in a state of the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So believers should wake up and set out to attain complete truthfulness in their speech, actions, and intentions, so that they enter into the ranks of the truthful, those whom the Lord of the worlds has raised, just like we found in the hadith. And the author ends this section by making the dua. O Allah, make truthfulness firm in our hearts and in the hearts of our families, and make it firm in our houses and our gatherings, so that it manifests in us in the way you love it to be, O most merciful. May Allah bestow His blessings upon our Master Muhammad ﷺ and upon his family and companions. All praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds. Indeed, all praise be to Allah, Lord of the worlds. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He makes this affair easy for us in inculcating some of these character virtues and some of these aspects of these personality traits that we could beautify our personalities with, and beautify our characters with, and beautify our whole being with, inshallah ta'ala, for his sake and his sake alone. Subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with that, and bless us with the ability to have truthfulness in our speech, have truthfulness in our actions when we deal with one another, in its completion, in its entirety, in its entire beauty, any single act of worship. And that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us with that beautiful gift, that rare gift of a beautiful intention, of a sincere intention, of a truthful intention. آمين يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين يا أرحم الراحمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. Inshallah ta'ala we'll pick up with lesson 12 tomorrow, and that concludes those previous three. That concludes our section on truthfulness. Inshallah ta'ala tomorrow we'll speak about mercy, the quality of mercy, wa rahmah. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.